everyone. Today we are going to discuss about adrenergic agents part 3, and this is the last part of adrenergic agents, which is followed by blockers from next classes. So till now we have seen various classification of adrenergic agents or drugs based on various criteria like catecholamines and non-catecholamines. In catecholamines, also endogenous and synthetic or semi-synthetic catecholamines. Then another classification is based on receptor-mediated action. Like some directly get bind with the receptor and produce the sympathomimetic action. So they are known as directly acting agent. Some are indirectly acting agents. Either they inhibit the metabolism, either they inhibit the uptake process, or they are releasers. Or that way, indirectly, they produce the sympathomimetic action. Another classification, or some agents are mixed action, having receptor-mediated action also, as well as indirect action also. Third classification, which is very important, that is known as therapeutic classification. So, if you remember receptor-mediated action, then also this therapeutic use, it is easy to remember of individual agents. So, superficially we will first see the therapeutic classification and then discuss about individual agents and therapeutic uses. So, first of all, vasopressor agents. So, vasopressor agents, they are alpha-1 receptor agonist, and the agents are noradrenaline. We are knowing noradrenaline is non-selective agents. It's having action on alpha as well as beta-1 also, but no beta-2 action. But alpha-1 receptor agonistic action is there with noradrenaline also. Then phenylephrine, methoxamine, mephenteramine, here you can add some more agents. So these are the pressure agents producing vasoconstriction. Cardiac stimulants. Non-selective cardiac stimulants are adrenaline, isoprenaline. Beta-1 receptor agonist, they are dopamine and dobutamine. Bronchodilators, non-selective bronchodilators are adrenaline, isoprenaline. But as we are knowing the status in asthma of these agents, they are not the first line agents, only used for resistance cases. Now in the bronchodilators only, the selective agents. So in bronchial muscle, which receptor is located that we are knowing, that is beta-2 receptors. So the agents act via these receptors are known as selective beta-2 agonist, salbutamol, terbutaline, salmeterol, formoterol, bombuterol, and other agents. Nasal decongestant, here you can see alpha agonist. Alpha-1 agonist also used as nasal decongestant, and alpha-2 receptor agonist also can be used as nasal decongestants. So we'll see alpha-1 receptor agonist. They are phenylephrine, pseudoephedrine, phenylpropanol, PPA or phenylpropanol amine. Ephedrine also you can add here. Alpha-2 receptor agonist, they are also known as imidazoline agonist, and the agents are oxymetazoline, xylometazoline, nafazoline. Uterine relaxant, we are knowing selective beta-2 agonist. So beta-2 is located in various muscles, smooth muscles we are knowing. So they are bronchodilator also as well as uterine relaxant also. Selective beta-2 agonist, isosuprine, ritodrine, salbutamol, terbutaline, orsiprenaline can be used for this purpose. CNS stimulants, amphetamine, dexamphetamine, mephenteramine, ephedrine, so used for various purposes in the conditions when CNS stimulation is required. Anorectic agents, long list of anorectic agents is there. I have included few only. Fenfluramine, dexfenfuramine, sibutramine, mezindol. Later on we will discuss about various other agents. Now in individual agents, we will see first of all dopamine. So dopamine, receptor mediated action, if we will see, it's having action on dopamine receptors D1 and D2 and adrenergic receptors, other adrenergic receptors beta 1 and alpha 1 also. You can remember action like dose dependent action of dopamine is C. In low dose, it's having action on D1, medium dose, it's having action on beta 1, and high dose, it's having action on alpha 1 receptors. So, related to this receptor selectivity, it is having specific action and use for different specific purpose. In small doses. So what is the small dose? 2 to 5 microgram per kg per minute. It stimulates D1 receptors. Where is the location of D1 receptors? In renal, mesenteric, coronary vessels, leading to vasodilation. Renal vasoconstriction occurs in CVS shock due to sympathetic overactivity. It increases renal blood flow, GFR, and causes natriuresis. So it is useful, or this small dose is useful in the condition when renal vasodilation is required. So in some cardiac condition also renal function is compromised. At that time also we can use this dose, and kidney disease also in which renal vasodilation is required. So small dose D1. The same you are going to learn in practicals also. So it will be like repetition for you, revision for you. Moderate dose. What is moderate dose? 5 to 10 microgram per kg per minute. Stimulates beta 1 receptors, the location of beta 1 in heart, producing positive inotropic and little chronotropic actions. What is inotropic action? Increase force of contraction. Force of contraction. Positive inotropic, that means increase force of contraction. But very little or little chronotropic action. So on heart rate, it is having less action. So in some conditions, it is useful when we don't want to increase the cardiac load. Because if heart rate is increased, the workload will also increase. So dopamine is preferable, we can say, for cardiac condition in this dose as compared to non-selective agents like adrenaline, noradrenaline, isoprenaline. Releases noradrenaline from nerves by beta 1 stimulation, another mechanism. It does not change peripheral resistance and heart rate, as we have discussed already. Utility, that is in cardiovascular shock or CCF, congestive cardiac failure, or CHF, congestive heart failure. Beta 1, CVS condition, cardiac stimulation. High dose, that is 10 to 20 microgram per kg per minute. Alpha 1. Again, revision: low, D1, medium, beta 1, high, alpha 1. So, high alpha 1 receptor stimulation, and we are knowing it leads to vasoconstriction and decreased renal blood flow. Utility in hypovolemic shock or cardiac failure, but in cardiac failure, various classification or grades are there. Compensatory, decompensatory phase is there. So, in cardiac failure, any drug before administration, you need to know in which phase or which category cardiac failure is there. Next agent, dobutamine. It is similar to that of dopamine, derivative of dopamine. But remember, it has no action on dopamine receptor. Acts on both alpha and beta receptor, but more prominently beta 1 receptor mediated action. So we can remember this dobutamine as selective beta 1 agonist. Selective beta 1 agonist. Dopamine, we have seen dose dependent action is there. So each and every dose we can use for different purpose, but what is the problem? If pharmacokinetic is not proper, or a dose we are giving, the administration, some problem is there. So at that time, the level plasma concentration can increase, and that's why dopamine is considered as narrow therapeutic index agents. So suppose for cardiac condition if we are using, we always monitor, or we have to look for the signs of vasoconstriction. At that time we need to stop. So therapeutic drug monitoring is required for such type of drugs like dopamine, even dobutamine also. But the advantage of dobutamine over dopamine for cardiac use, that is selective beta 1 action. Does not act on D1 or D2 receptors that we have discussed. It's a racemic mixture of dobutamine which is used clinically. L, S or R we can say. So one is alpha 1 agonist and one is alpha 1 and antagonist. So the action is nullified, and that's why we get predominant action on beta 1 only. So it's not like that it has no beta action, but this way the action on beta is nullified and predominant beta 1 mediated, and that's why it is known as selective beta 1 agonist. 8 to 10 times beta 1 agonist. IV infusion in the dose of 2.5 to 10 microgram per kg per minute. Short-term emergency management or treatment of cardiac failure in patient of myocardial infarction after cardiac surgery, or in patient of CHF. In short, cardiac use we can say, to increase force of contraction as inotropic agent. Limitation, short half-life, so IV infusion is required. Tolerance develops within few days, so used for short term. These arrhythmias, there are less chances because no much action on heart rate. But still, if patient is presented with arrhythmia, so cautiously given or avoided. Also, it should be avoided in condition like hypertension. Phenylephrine. So till now, we know about individual agent, also receptor mediated action. So phenylephrine is selective alpha 1 agonist. In the classification where we put this agent, pressure agents, vasopressure agents. It lacks OH group at 4th position on benzene ring of epinephrine or adrenaline. Thus it is non-catecholamine, that also we have discussed. Catecholamines, why they are? Because the nucleus which is known as catecholamine nucleus. Others are not having this, so they are known as non-catecholamine agent. So it is non-catecholamine agents. It can cause peripheral vascular resistance increase, and that's why blood pressure increase, because alpha 1 vascular stimulation will lead to vasoconstriction. Uses as a nasal decongestant. So in that classification also we have seen alpha 1 agonists are used as nasal decongestant. But whenever we are using it for nasal decongestant, what we need to remember? Vasoconstrictor action. So in patients of hypertension or elderly patient, because elderly patient mostly we are doing the alpha 1 mediated action on prostate, so can worsen the condition, and most of the time these agents are given oral administration or systemic administration we can say. So systemic ADR, there are chances of systemic adverse effects. That's why. Second use of phenylephrine is mydriatic alpha 1 mediated action that we have seen. So these agents mediatic action there are so many mediatics you have already learned in anticholinergics. Okay, so they are more preferable agents. So for which condition phenylephrine is preferable? When cycloplegia is not required. Remember, when cycloplegia is not required. For that purpose, when cycloplegia is required, we can use anticholinergic agents. So when cycloplegia is not required in fundoscopic examination, so in such cases, it is a preferred agent for fundoscopic examination when cycloplegia is not required. In some patients of hypotension and shock, because if we look at the classification, it is the vasopressor agents. So when low blood pressure is there in the conditions, we can use this agent phenylephrine. Another agent, phenoldopam. It's a selective D1 receptor agonist. We are knowing the site of D1, that is renal, mesenteric, coronary blood vessels, and stimulation of D1 or D1 mediated action that will lead to vasodilation at that site. Has no alpha or beta receptor activity, so utility we can easily guess when the use of phenoldopam. Phenoldopam is not given in your reference book, KD Tripathi. You can remember the name. Arterial dilator that we have already discussed uses short-term management of severe hypertension patient with impaired renal function. When rapid reduction in blood pressure is desired, at that time also phenoldopam is used. Nefazolin, oxymetazoline, xylometazoline, in the classification where we put these agents as nasal decongestant. In nasal decongestant, alpha-1 agonist are also there, alpha-2 agonist are also there, phenylephrine alpha-1 agonist is there. These imidazoline agents having alpha-2 agonistic action and used as nasal decongestant. And remember, these agents are for topical use, drops or whatever. Okay, so topical use that you can remember. Alpha-1 agonist, most of the time systemic, oral or systemic administration is there. Used as nasal decongestant in rhinorrhea and to check epistaxis. Mechanism action that we have already named, vasoconstriction caused by alpha-2, which is located in the periphery, not central. In vasculature we can see. Advantages: longer duration, less after congestion than alpha-1 agonist like phenylephrine, pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, PPA, phenylpropanol, amine. So this is the advantage of longer duration and less after congestion. But long-term, these agents lead to atrophic rhinitis and anosmia because of compromised mucociliary action or function. Cautious use in hypertension and with MAO inhibitors. Actually, this is true. Not with this imidazolide agent. Here, generalized statement is given, but it is more suitable when we use alpha-1 agonist as nasal decongestant because of systemic effect or vasoconstriction. It can increase the blood pressure with MAO inhibitor, inhibit the metabolism, increase the plasma concentration, so vasoconstriction will be more. Uses of nasal decongestant in conditions like common cold, allergic rhinitis, blocked eustachian tubes, upper respiratory tract infection. Anorectic agents. Anorectic, what is anorexia that you are knowing? Okay. Suppression of appetite. So there are two ways for this suppression of appetite. One is stimulation of hunger center, and another that is suppression of satiety center. That, okay, you can remember the hunger center here because sympathomimetic agents we are going to learn, they have this action on hunger center at hypothalamus. Hunger or feeding center inhibit and the agent famous for it, that is amphetamine. But remember that amphetamine, when we learn amphetamine as an individual agent, so there are so many adverse effects of amphetamine because it is potent CNS stimulant. So for this purpose, nowadays the use of amphetamine is very less. So here they classify sympathomimetic agent for anorectic purpose into three groups. One, that is noradrenergic agent, inhibit reuptake of noradrenaline, serotonergic, that is inhibit uptake of 5-HT and inhibit both reuptake, 5-HT and noradrenaline. So noradrenergic agents are phentermine, phenylpropranolol, amine, diethylpropion and mezindol. Serotonergic agents, fenfluramine, dexfenfluramines. But the problem of serotonergic agent is development of tolerance. These agents, not only serotonergic but noradrenergic, then dual action agents, all these previously and nowadays also used widely at slimming centers or obesity clinic, we can say. Though it is, the use is banned, but still unofficially they are using by misuses, we can say. They misuse these agents, labeling them a different way. Serious adverse effect from valvular defect to arrhythmia, heart failure. There are severe, changes of ECG occur with such type of agents. They will lead to not only morbidity regarding CVS action, but majority of the cases mortality occur. Dual action sibutramine. Sibutramine in past was very famous agent at obesity clinic or slimming center, act by inhibiting both the uptake of noradrenaline and 5-HT. R-sibutramine, which is the isomer of sibutramine. So in obese patient, it was used. Nowadays, limited use. US FDA and UK already it is banned. Here also it is banned or used somewhere with some restriction. So if we look at these agents can be useful and was used in past also, but if we see the current status, no sympathomimetic agents mentioned above is used officially nowadays. PPA, phenylpropanol amine, most commonly used in common cold, oral preparation of nasal congestion. We have already seen alpha-1 agonistic action. It has been withdrawn because it increases risk of hemorrhagic stroke in young women and hypersensitive person or patient. Clonidine, selective alpha-2 agonist. That's why I have included here. You will learn these agents in hypertension also as antihypertensive, and this is sympathomimetic agents, because if we look at the receptor mediated action, it is alpha-2 agonist, but it is also in the list of sympatholytic agent. Okay, it's agonistic action, but the action mediated by alpha-2A in the CNS, that is sympatholytic. And recently, not much recent, but it was found out that clonidine also acts on imidazoline receptors. Two imidazoline receptors are there, I1 and I2. So, first of all, one hypothesis is there, that is not sure, but one hypothesis, first of all, it will bind with I2 receptors, imidazoline receptors, and then it will stimulate alpha-2 receptors in the CNS. At high dose or IV administration, at that time it can stimulate the peripheral also. So that is the adverse effect or first dose effect we can say. Agonist to postsynaptic alpha-2A adrenoreceptor in brain. Stimulation will lead to suppress sympathetic outflow and reduces blood pressure. This is the mechanism, antihypertensive mechanism, sympathetic outflow, suppress, and that's why alpha-2 agonistic action is there, but it is considered as sympatholytic agent also. High dose activates peripheral presynaptic autoreceptors on adrenergic nerve endings, mediated negative feedback suppression of noradrenaline release, another mechanism. Overdose stimulates peripheral postsynaptic alpha-1 and cause hypertension by vasoconstriction. It also stimulates alpha-2B or A in the periphery, which is also involved in vasoconstriction. Clonidine reduces blood pressure. Antihypertensive action. Abrupt or gradual withdrawal causes rebound hypertension. You are going to learn in beta blocker. When you will learn about beta blocker propranolol, at that time you will learn the term rebound hypertension. When it happens, when abrupt or gradual withdrawal is done. So in general pharmacology also you have learned about the receptor sensitivity, hypersensitivity, desensitization. So it would be easier to understand the phenomenon of rebound hypertension. It's a withdrawal phenomenon. Onset may be rapid, few hours, or delayed for long as 2 days and subsides over 2 to 3 days. At UG level it is not much important. Never use clonidine with beta blockers because clonidine is also sympatholytic. Beta blockers sympatholytic, that we are knowing. Moderate hypertension, only it is useful. It is not the first choice or first line antihypertensive agent. Other uses, if we look about the clonidine, is to control diarrhea in diabetic patient with autonomic neuropathy. It is also useful in prophylaxis of migraine, management of nicotine withdrawal or opiate withdrawal or alcohol withdrawal, because withdrawal of all these agents will stimulate the sympathetic system. So this is the sympatholytic agent. Being a sympatholytic agent, clonidine will be useful in management of withdrawal reaction of this. Not only this, but when clonidine withdrawal is there, rebound hypertension we can say. So in clonidine, clonidine itself is used in clonidine withdrawal. Pre-anesthetic medication, it's having analgesic action also or other action also at UG level, not much important. Menopausal hot flushes, that is we can say post-menopausal hot flushes, or in perimenopausal period also there are chances of hot flushes, that is because of hormonal imbalance. So vascular role of clonidine acts here. Rebound hypertension, dry mouth, sedation, nasal stuffiness, impotence, constipation, contact dermatitis. These are the adverse effects of clonidine. Now apraclonidine and brimonidine. These are selective alpha-2 agonists, or you can say clonidine congener. Used for treatment of glaucoma by reducing formation of aqueous humor. Potent ocular hypotensive, used after laser trabeculoplasty also. So mainly these agents are used for ocular purpose or in case of glaucoma. Apraclonidine and brimonidine. You will have separate class on glaucoma. At that time also you will learn the same thing. Previously we have already seen alpha-1 action on either aqueous humor formation or secretion or drainage. Alpha-1, alpha-2, beta-1, beta-2, that is already covered. Ephedrine, alkaloid, that means plant derivative. Plant derivative. So from which plant it is derived from? Ephedra vulgaris. Ephedra vulgaris. It is a, if category wise, if we put, or receptor mediated action wise, if we put in the classification, previously also we have seen it is a mixed acting agent. So directly also stimulate the receptor and indirectly also stimulate its action by causing release of stored noradrenaline from vesicles in the nerve ending like tyramine and amphetamine. Tyramine and amphetamine, which are purely indirectly acting agent, ephedrine is mixed acting agent. Tachyphylaxis is the phenomenon specially noticed with indirectly acting agents like tyramine. In experimental pharmacology, if we see, tyramine was the preferred agent for producing the phenomena that is known as tachyphylaxis. In general pharma you have learned what is tachyphylaxis, that is the acute tolerance. So in tachyphylaxis what will happen? Tyramine, the same dose of tyramine is repeated at specific interval of time. So what is the effect on blood pressure? We will see that is because of release of noradrenaline. So it is more in the initial period or beginning, but it is gradually decrease. Remember, the same dose we are using, but over the time what will happen? The mechanism of indirectly acting agent, they causes release or displace the noradrenaline. So noradrenaline now will be in the cytoplasm, metabolized by MAO. So ultimately there is less release of noradrenaline in the synaptic cleft. And gradually what will happen? The store of noradrenaline gets depleted. That's why the gradually decreasing effect we will see with indirectly acting agents. That is seen very good with tyramine, but with ephedrine also we can demonstrate this phenomenon. Resistant to MAO, ephedrine, so orally effective, longer acting also because it's not the substrate for MAO. It can cross blood-brain barrier also and causes TNS stimulation. Also in classification also we have seen CNS stimulants. Uses, we are knowing alpha action is also there. So hypotension during spinal anesthesia, postural hypotension, spelling is okay. Mild chronic bronchial asthma, it can be useful, but as we have discussed earlier, selective beta-2 agonist or better alternatives are already available. That's why adrenaline can also be used, isoprenaline can also be used, ephedrine can also be used for asthma, but they are not the first choice agents. So we can remember this. Hypotension. Mephentermine having action on both receptor alpha and beta, it also associated with the release of noradrenaline, and based on that various pharmacological action we can see of mephentermine. Classification wise, therapeutic classification wise, we can put in the category of vasopressor agents. So utility wise the same, the conditions when blood pressure is low, these agents can be given. It is also not a substrate for MAO and COMT. In case of ephedrine, we have seen it's not the substrate for MAO. Mephentermine is not the substrate for MAO as well as COMT also. So oral administration possible, and advantage is longer duration. It used to control blood pressure, hypotensive state in spinal anesthesia. We are knowing after giving spinal anesthesia, there are chances of hypotension or hypotensive shock. So in that case, these agents by vasoconstriction increase the blood pressure. Same will be in case of shock in myocardial infarction. But here beta mediated action also plays a role. Another similar agent, not similar, but we can put in the category of vasopressor is methoxamine. It is having action on alpha-1 receptors, alpha-1 agonist, it acts as alpha-1 agonist. Along with that, it's having weak beta blocking action also. But it is not much famous or popular. Occasional, we can use it as pressure agent. Amphetamine, therapeutic classification wise, where can we put it? CNS stimulant. Mechanism action, it is indirectly acting agent like tyramine. So I am not going to repeat the mechanism. They crosses blood-brain barrier and produce CNS stimulation. Now initially or short-term effect of amphetamine, if we'll see, so they are favorable. Favorable in which sense they are favorable? They increase concentration span or attention span, increase concentration, increase alertness, increase muscular activity also. So athletic performance is also increase. Some stage fear or exam fear is there, that is also abbreviated with the amphetamine, means it is short-term effect. So initially or short-term effect of amphetamine are appreciable or favorable, and athletic performance, if we have seen, athletic performance is increased with this agent, and that's why it is included in the drug list which is for dope test or doping. Long term, there are bad adverse effects is that tremor, dysphoria, agitation, respiratory problem, coma, death. Okay? And excessive stimulation, as we are knowing, always result in depression on long term. And death is because of this depression. Hunger center effect, hypothalamic feeding center that we have. So it is inhibited. I think previously I have told like stimulation or whatever is there. Okay. Abuse potential of this agent is very high, and that's why that will limit the utility or use of amphetamine for various conditions. It produces acidic urine because of starvation. It produces starvation, ketone body formation is there, lactic acid formation is there, and that's why it results in acidic urine. Behavioral abnormalities noted, psychosis occurs with long-term effect or high dose of amphetamine. Tolerance develop to toxic action and abuse potential, but that is not much appreciable. And that's why we need to consider this as the drug having abuse potential, and we should avoid using this agent. In case of toxicity of amphetamine, CPZ is used. What is CPZ? Chlorpromazine. Chlorpromazine is used. So by which mechanism? It blocks the alpha action. That's why. Uses in case of narcolepsy, ADHD, and obesity. Obesity we have already seen. Previously it was used. Nowadays not used. Not only this, other sympathomimetic also not used. ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperkinetic disorders seen in children. So the presentation of children here is hyperkinetic type, or overexcited they remain, or overactive we can say. So because of this overactivity, what will happen? They can't focus or concentrate on particular thing. So if we see the use of amphetamine or mechanism of amphetamine is CNS stimulant. But in this case, it will not stimulate CNS related action, increase alertness or whatever is there. But here paradoxical effect of amphetamine we can see in case of ADHD. Like here I have mentioned favorable attention span is increased for some particular concentration required exercise or work. So it produces calmness in the patient of ADHD. So this is the mechanism. In one-liner or viva it can be asked. Narcolepsy, what is narcolepsy? It sleep occur during fits. That is known as narcolepsy. So here also amphetamine is useful. Other agents for narcolepsy and ADHD we will see later. Tyramine, we have already discussed, indirectly acting agent but only the experimental tool. But still we need to discuss here to understand the other mechanism involved, that is with endogenous release of catecholamines and all. So it's a normal byproduct of tyrosine metabolism in the body, also found in high concentration in fermented foods such as cheese and fish. Not only this, but pickle, we are knowing fermented food, okay, and other fermented food also it is seen. If administered parenterally, it has indirect sympathomimetic action caused by release of stored catecholamine. Just like amphetamine, it increases the number of catecholamine at the synapse. Cheese reaction. Now what is cheese reaction? You will learn this phenomenon in general pharmacology, you have seen, and you will learn in MAO inhibitors or antidepressant, as antidepressant MAO inhibitors is useful at that time. Also you will learn about cheese reaction. So we'll see what is this cheese reaction. Here we are discussing in relation with tyramine. That's why we are knowing it's tyramine rich food, cheeses. So it must be related to it. In patients treated with MAO inhibitors, drug used in depression and Parkinson disease, it can increase in noradrenaline level. By inhibiting metabolism, increase the noradrenaline. Cheese, liquor, dry sausage, yogurt, resin, liver, pickle, these are the various foods rich in cheese. So when patient is on MAO inhibitors for any purpose and patient consume this tyramine rich food, at that time what will happen? There is more marked increase in blood pressure, so it will lead to hypertensive crisis. Heart rate is also increase. So this is known as cheese syndrome, and this cheese syndrome or cheese reaction can lead to arrhythmia or stroke and death of the patients. So patients taking MAO inhibitors must be very careful to avoid tyramine containing food. Cocaine, utility wise if you will see, it is not useful, but still we are discussing here. You have already learned in the abuse potential, drug with abuse potential in adverse effect. So it's a reuptake inhibitor or uptake 1 inhibitor that we have discussed. Along with that, it's having property of local anesthetic action. The action results from inhibition of transmitter reuptake at presynapse, readily enters the CNS and produces amphetamine-like effect that is shorter lasting and more intense. The major action of cocaine in the central nervous system is to inhibit dopamine reuptake into neurons in the pleasure centers of the brain, which is responsible for abuse potential of cocaine. Increased epinephrine leads to systemic symptoms of sympathetic effect. Now selective beta 2 stimulant. Selective beta 2 stimulants. So which are the actions of selective beta 2 stimulant? Because of location in various smooth muscles, they can cause bronchodilation, vasodilation, uterine relaxation. Salbutamol, metoprolol, terbutaline, porbuterol, sarmeterol, formoterol, bambuterol. So these are the various selective beta 2 agents causing bronchodilation, and that's why preferred in case of bronchial asthma. Duration of action longer on oral administration. So this, in case of bronchial asthma, when these agents are used, they are used as inhalation also, as well as systemic absorption also, topical as well as systemic absorption. Adverse effect: tachycardia, tremors, palpitation. At very high dose, selectivity might loss, may have action on beta 1 receptors, so tachycardia will be there. Tremor, beta 2 related specific action. We have seen different action on red fiber, white fiber, so on red fibers, active state, what will happen with this, and muscle spindle action, and because of that what will happen? Tremor will be there. So this is side effect. Side effect, that means at the therapeutic dose it appears. So it is inevitable, we can say. So along with salbutamol or other beta 2 stimulants, when used for bronchial asthma, side effect tremor is seen. Another beta 2 agonist, isozuprine, terbutaline, salbutamol, ritotrine. The purpose of these agents are known as tocolytics. Tocolytics means to cause uterine relaxation. So for which purpose, or when the uterine relaxation is required? To inhibit premature labor, or in case of threatened abortion. So at that time they cause relaxation of uterus, prevent contraction, and the condition is maintained. Preferred agent as or tocolytic is ritotrine. So ritotrine IV administration or infusion is given, but you can remember, or you need to monitor these agents, because many serious side effect, adverse effect is seen with IV administration of ritotrine, like pulmonary edema and pulmonary edema mediated various CHF and other cardiovascular adverse effect will be seen. So morbidity and mortality increase with the use of ritotrine. You can remember this. Salbutamol, terbutaline, isozuprine also can be useful, and one of the route of administration for this agent is transdermal patch, that you have already done. Therapeutic uses, now it's like just the repetition of whatever we have discussed. So superficially we will go through the therapeutic uses. Vascular uses: shock or acute hypotension. So if we see your book, various type of shock, they have mentioned hemorrhagic shock or hypovolemic shock, neurogenic shock, septic shock, anaphylactic shock, like so each and every cases of shock. Management is some difference, management is there or similarity is there, all are an emergency condition, so you have to look for management purpose ABCD. Okay, so in case of hypotension, blood pressure is low. If volume or body fluid is less, so at that time fluid replacement is also required. We have to provide electrolyte balance also, proper hydration also, and along with that, if pressure agent is required, we need to give the selective alpha-1 agonistic agent. Okay. So we are not going into detail of that. Second vascular use is persistent or postural hypotension. So what is postural hypotension? Hypotension occurs because of when some autonomic dysfunction is there or reflex mediated action is not maintained at that time during changing the position. Suppose from lying down to sitting, sitting to standing, sudden blackout will be there and person can fall immediately. So by changing the posture, this hypotension is produced, or that occurs because of lowering of blood pressure, and that is because of compromise either autonomic function or whatever the reflex mechanism. So in that case also we can give selective alpha-1 agonist. So if it is because of adrenal insufficiency, we can give corticosteroid like fludrocortisone, then agent like midodrine. Midodrine, this is also useful in case of postural hypotension. So symptomatic, we can manage other non-pharmacological advice also we can give. First of all, from lying down to sitting position, take some time and then stand. So that will also prevent it. Application of elastic stocking, elevation of leg, etc. So along with pharmacology, some non-pharmacological measures can also be tried here. Another vascular use is along with local anesthetics. So along with local anesthetic like lignocaine in the concentration of 1:2 lakhs to 1:80,000. What is the purpose with lignocaine? One is to prolong the action, another is to prevent the systemic toxicity. Next use is control of local bleeding. So here adrenaline is used in 1:10,000 concentration or less than that, 8,000 or like that. So gauze with phenylephrine, soaked in phenylephrine can also be applied here. Alpha-1 mediated action, adrenaline can also be given for local suppression of bleeding like epistaxis or any other like GI bleeding is there. That is because of perforation of peptic ulcer. So at that time noradrenaline, we can give diluted noradrenaline with tube. We can put locally in GI to stop the bleeding. Nasal decongestant, already discussed alpha-1 and alpha-2. Agonist alpha-2, imidazoline, alpha-1 also with advantage, disadvantage, utility. Peripheral vascular disease, Reynolds, Berger, like. So the role of these agents, sympathomimetics, is vasoconstriction only. So normally what will happen here, if obstruction is present or like that is there, so what will happen? Vasodilation is already there. So here there is the role of beta-2 mediated vasodilation. But in PVD, that or sufficient vasodilation is already present. So not much role of these agents, because in case of obstruction they are useless and we can say controversial use. Cardiac uses cardiac arrest. What is cardiac arrest? Sudden stoppage of cardiac activity or beating action, many causes because of some pathology or electrocution or some type of shock, cardiac arrest can be there. So beta-1 stimulatory action is required here, dopamine, dovitamin also given, as well as non-selective agents like adrenaline, isoprenaline. So such agents are also given with monitoring. You need to remember. Partial or complete AV block. So here bradycardia will be there, or conduction blockage, whatever the clinical manifestation we can see here. So we need to stimulate that. So selective agent, if we'll see, isoprenaline can be given. In case atropine also given. In anticholinergic you have already learned. When AV block is there, these agents can be given. CHF, congestive heart failure. So here depends on compensatory phase of heart failure or decompensatory phase of heart failure. Sympathomimetic agents are given. Always you need to look whether they will not increase the cardiac load. Dobutamine stress test. What is this? Normally stress test is conducted on treadmill or such type of exercise related walk. But in patient, like osteoarthritis is there, or severe some problem is there, and because of that they are unable to do or perform that. So at that time cardiac activity is enhanced with IV administration of dobutamine. Normally treadmill exercise induced cardiac activity is measured and look for various any ECG signs of infarction is seen or not. So that is produced with dobutamine. So that is known as dobutamine stress test. Bronchial asthma and COPD that we have already seen, I am not going to repeat. Allergic disorders, hypersensitivity, 4 types we have seen. Type 1 if you will see, that is anaphylactic shock. In anaphylactic shock, adrenaline is the drug of choice. Why? Because the manifestation most of the time that is because of release of histamine, and adrenaline is the physiological antagonist of histamine. That's why adrenaline is life-saving, we can say, in case of anaphylactic shock. Other manifestations of anaphylactic shock, if we'll see, angioedema can be there, laryngeal edema can be there. Sometimes because of any hypersensitivity, urticaria can be there. So all will be taken care with the help of adrenaline. Other allergic conditions, we can use it. Ocular uses, we have seen the use of phenylephrine as mydriatic in fundoscopic examination when cycloplegia is not required. Other ocular uses, glaucoma, various alpha agonists also use, dipivefrin is also used, that is analog of adrenaline, clonidine, epreclonidine, brimonidine, these are the clonidine congener, can also be useful as second or third line. Third line or just supplement agents, but they are useful. Central uses ADHD, the mechanism of amphetamine in ADHD already discussed. Similar to that, another agents can also be given which are having less adverse effect as compared to amphetamine, and that's why they are preferable. Methylphenidate, atomoxetine, similar action as amphetamine with less adverse effect and less abuse potential. Tricyclic antidepressant, ADHD, hyperkinetic children, overactive, whatever is there. So by tricyclic antidepressant, calming action will be there if any frustration is there or any type of endogenous depression is there or like that. So in that case of ADHD they are useful. Narcolepsy, amphetamine, CNS depression we are knowing. Another agent for narcolepsy there are modafinil and imipramine, like the imipramine is also antidepressant that we are knowing. Uterine relaxants, which are the tocolytics, we can say them, selective beta-2 agonists, ritodin, isozuprine, salbutamol, terbutaline, like. Insulin hypoglycemia. So in insulin hypoglycemia, this is the, what to say, very popular question asked in one-liner or in Viva or like that regarding So insulin hypoglycemia. What will happen? Hypoglycemia. Why hypoglycemia? So excessive hypoglycemia is there. It can lead to hypoglycemic shock. So at that time it is necessary to increase the glucose level. So there are various ways to increase the glucose level in case of insulin mediated hypoglycemia. So depends on preferability or preference, we will see. So first of all, in case of insulin hypoglycemia, give oral glucose. If patient is conscious, no need to give oral glucose, or there is no, okay. So at that time give IV glucose. If condition is not controlled, then you can give glucagon. You are knowing what is glucagon and how it will increase glucose level, that also you are knowing. If condition is not controlled, at last resort, you can give adrenaline action. You need to remember alpha 2 mediated action, beta 2 mediated action. So ultimately glucose level is increased. So this is the last class of sympathomimetic agents. I think all the basic things, not only basic things, but in depth also you understand this topic. Okay, sometimes next time the class will be of blockers. First of all alpha blockers and then beta blockers. In between, if we get time, we'll throw some questions like one-liner or MCQ or like that. So that will be interested. Okay, thank you.